As the sun begins to set gently over distant hills, imagine yourself walking slowly through a dense, ancient valley where the air carries warmth, earthy scents, and the soft hum of life. Long ago, in this very land, a civilization rose that was full of color, ritual, and rhythm, moving with the quiet intensity of rivers and forests. Tonight, we're going to drift into the world of the Aztecs, not as a history lesson to rush through, but as a calming journey where each fact unfolds like a story whispered across time. Let yourself relax as we move slowly through their temples, markets, and quiet corners, imagining the lives of those who walked these lands centuries ago. If you enjoy this gentle exploration, remember to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves immersive, relaxing history. Now take a deep breath, let your mind soften, and drift with me into the first facts. Now let's move softly into fact 1 and consider the rise of the Aztecs themselves. The Aztecs were not always the great builders of the Valley of Mexico. They began as a nomadic people, wandering through highlands, searching for signs, guidance, and a place to settle. Imagine long days of walking across mountains, valleys, and lakes, feeling the sun's warmth and the cool winds in turn. Their journeys were guided by dreams, omens, and the quiet whispers of priests who interpreted the natural world. In these early wandering years, patience and observation shaped the Aztec people, teaching them resilience and careful planning that would later allow them to build one of the most remarkable civilizations of their time. Now let's drift into fact 2 and focus on the founding of Tenochtitlan. According to legend, the Aztecs were told to build a city where they saw an eagle perched on a cactus holding a snake in its beak. Imagine arriving at a small island in the middle of a vast lake, surrounded by reeds and shimmering water, and glimpsing such a vision. To them, this moment was both sacred and decisive. Over time, they transformed the island into a city of canals, temples, and markets. The care and vision it took to plan and construct this city were immense, reflecting a deep harmony between human effort and nature's signals. Now let's drift into fact 3 and consider the Aztec calendars. The Aztecs had 2 calendars that guided daily life, one for agriculture and the other for religious ceremonies. Imagine intricate carvings and painted symbols, each representing days, months, and cycles. Farmers and priests alike would consult these calendars, timing planting, harvesting, and rituals according to celestial patterns. The calendars were not merely practical, they were also deeply spiritual, linking human activity with the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. In this way, the Aztecs moved in quiet rhythm with the universe, their lives paced by observation and reflection rather than chaos. Now let's drift into fact 4, where we explore the significance of their temples. Aztec temples, known as teocalli, rose high above the city, their steps worn smooth by generations of visitors. Imagine climbing slowly to the top, feeling the heat of the stones and the gentle wind from the lake. Each temple was dedicated to a specific god, and rituals took place in a rhythm that connected the heavens to the earth. These sacred spaces were centers of both spiritual reflection and social life, where humans paused, observed, and honored forces greater than themselves. Even in our imagination, we can feel the calm reverence that filled these stone courtyards. Now let's move softly into fact 5 and consider the Aztec markets. Markets were alive, but not frantic. Imagine long, shaded rows filled with the smell of maize, cocoa, and herbs, where merchants laid out colorful fabrics, pottery, and feathers. Buyers moved slowly, inspecting goods carefully, exchanging words, gestures, and soft laughter. The markets were a quiet network of community, connecting villages and families through trade and conversation. They were both practical and meditative, spaces where daily life unfolded gently, a pulse of calm activity under the warm sun. Now let's drift into Fact 6 and reflect on Aztec education. Children were educated in calm, disciplined ways, learning history, moral lessons, and skills for their roles in society. Imagine sitting under the shade of a tree, listening to elders tell stories of gods, ancestors, and heroes, absorbing wisdom in a soft, flowing manner. Boys and girls had different paths, yet they both learned patience, focus, and respect. Education was not rushed, it was meant to shape character and prepare for life, teaching children to move through the world with awareness and quiet responsibility. Now let's move gently into Fact 7 and focus on Aztec agriculture. Floating gardens, or chinampas, allowed the Aztecs to farm on shallow lake beds, creating fertile plots that glimmered with morning dew. Imagine walking along narrow canals, the water reflecting sunlight, and seeing maize, beans, and squash growing in precise rows. Farmers moved carefully between the plots, tending crops in rhythm with the sun and seasons. These gardens were marvels of engineering, but also spaces of calm observation, where every plant was watched, nurtured, and allowed to flourish in harmony with nature. Now let's drift into Fact 8 and think about Aztec clothing. Their clothing was soft, practical, and richly symbolic. Imagine gently dyed cotton robes, finely woven fabrics, and intricate feathered ornaments worn in patterns that reflected social status and ceremonial purpose. Every stitch and decoration carried meaning, creating a sense of order, respect, and quiet beauty. Clothing was not rushed, it was crafted and worn with care, expressing identity and belonging, a reflection of inner calm and social rhythm. Now let's move softly into Fact 9 and reflect on Aztec medicine. Aztec healers combined observation, herbs, and ritual to care for the sick. Imagine sitting quietly as a healer prepares a poultice, crushing leaves and roots with careful hands, whispering words of guidance. Illness was treated not only with remedies, but with attention, calm observation, and spiritual care. Healing was a slow, deliberate process, teaching patience and respect for life cycles, reminding us that care is most effective when gentle and consistent. Now let's drift into Fact 10 and consider Aztec art. Their art was intricate, detailed, and deeply connected to life and myth. Imagine soft carvings on stone, delicate feather mosaics, and paintings rich with symbolic color. Each piece was created with attention and intention, conveying stories of gods, nature, and human experience. Art was a quiet meditation for both maker and observer, a rhythm of hands, eyes, and imagination moving together to create beauty that endured for centuries. We've now drifted through the first 10 sleepy facts about the Aztecs, slowly exploring their temples, markets, gardens, and wisdom, moving through their world with calm observation. When you're ready, we can continue gently into facts 11 to 20, keeping the same immersive, meditative pace. Now let's move softly into Fact 11 and reflect on the Aztec gods who were present in every moment of daily life. The Aztecs believed in many deities, each representing different aspects of nature and human existence. Imagine walking through a city where every temple, every home altar, and even the smallest household corner carries an offering, a whispered prayer, or a symbol of devotion. The sun god Huitzilopochtli, the rain god Tlaloc, and the goddess of fertility Coatlicue were all part of this gentle spiritual rhythm, guiding life in subtle ways. Their presence was not frantic or fearful, but woven into the calm, ordered flow of existence, reminding the Aztecs of their connection to the world around them. Now let's drift into Fact 12, where we consider Aztec poetry. Poetry was not hurried, it was contemplative and reflective. Imagine sitting beneath a tree or on the edge of a quiet canal, listening as poets recite verses about nature, love, war, and the cycles of life. The words flow softly, carrying images of rivers, mountains, stars, and gods. Poetry was a way to meditate on existence itself, blending human thought with the patterns of the natural world. It offered calm reflection and gentle introspection, letting the mind linger on beauty, sorrow, and wisdom alike. Now let's ease into Fact 13 and focus on Aztec astronomy. Observing the stars and planets was a quiet, deliberate practice. Priests and scholars would spend nights watching the sky, noting patterns, eclipses, and celestial movements. Imagine lying back on soft grass under a velvet night sky, letting constellations trace themselves slowly overhead. These observations guided agriculture, festivals, and rituals, creating a serene connection between human life and the vast cosmos. The night sky became a source of calm guidance, a rhythm that shaped life without urgency, only patience and careful attention. Now let's drift into Fact 14, where we explore Aztec architecture. Their buildings were not chaotic or haphazard. Every step, courtyard, and staircase was carefully planned. Temples rose high with smooth stone, creating lines that drew the eye upward, while plazas spread outward, inviting slow movement and contemplation. Imagine walking along a sunlit causeway, each stone laid with intention, each shadow falling gently in place. Architecture for the Aztecs was a meditation in stone, a rhythm of space and form that grounded life in balance and reflection. Now let's move softly into Fact 15 and consider the Aztec chinampas, their floating gardens, in greater detail. These gardens were constructed with layers of soil, reeds, and water, forming fertile plots that seemed to float on lakes. Imagine walking along narrow, quiet pathways between beds of maize, beans, and squash, morning dew shimmering on leaves. Farmers moved slowly, tending each plant with patience and care. The gardens were more than food sources. They were living systems of harmony and calm, teaching the value of observation, balance, and the gentle integration of human effort with nature's rhythms. Now let's drift into Fact 16 and focus on Aztec ritual music. Instruments like drums, flutes, and rattles created sounds that were rhythmic but not overwhelming, resonating through plazas, temples, and forests. Imagine the steady beat of a drum echoing softly across a lake, blending with birdsong and wind. Music marked ceremonies, guided dance, and aligned human movement with sacred patterns. There was no chaos, only measured rhythms that invited reflection, deepened attention, and a subtle sense of calm participation in a larger world. Now let's ease into Fact 17 and think about Aztec trade. Goods moved between cities and villages with a quiet, orderly rhythm. Merchants carried cacao, textiles, feathers, and obsidian along winding causeways and over calm waterways. Imagine a market morning where colors, smells, and sounds are gentle rather than overwhelming, each transaction deliberate and courteous. Trade was a slow, thoughtful process, building connections and stability rather than haste or frenzy. The movement of goods was part of life's quiet pulse, linking communities with steady reliability. Now let's drift into Fact 18 and reflect on Aztec cuisine. The food they prepared was rich and varied, yet each meal was approached with care. Maize, beans, chili, squash, amaranth, and cacao were cooked slowly, combined with herbs, seeds, and occasional meats. Imagine the warm aroma of cooking drifting across a village, the gentle crackle of fire, and the rhythmic chopping and grinding that produced every meal. Eating was not rushed, it was mindful, nourishing, and part of a daily pattern that valued sustenance as a gentle ritual rather than mere consumption. Now let's move softly into Fact 19 and consider Aztec crafts. Artisans shaped pottery, feathers, textiles, and jewelry with precision and calm attention. Imagine soft sunlight falling on a feather mosaic as a craftsman works slowly, selecting each piece for color, size, and texture. Crafts were meditative, blending skill and observation with quiet creativity. Every object carried meaning, telling a story or honoring a deity. The process itself was soothing as hands and mind moved together with careful, deliberate rhythm. Now let's drift into Fact 20, where we explore Aztec medicine in more depth. Healers combined herbal remedies with ritual, observation, and gentle care. Imagine a healer preparing poultices from marigold, aloe, or copal, whispering guidance and encouragement as the patient lies calmly. Healing was not hurried. It was a patient practice, respecting the body's natural rhythms and the mind's need for reassurance. This approach created a world where care was slow, deliberate, and deeply connected to both nature and human observation, offering a quiet lesson in patience and attentiveness. Now let's drift softly into Fact 21 and consider the calm, intricate designs of Aztec codices. These manuscripts, painted on deerskin or bark paper, carried stories, rituals, and histories, all expressed in vibrant colors and geometric patterns. Imagine opening one of these delicate books, feeling the soft texture of the surface under your fingertips, and seeing illustrations of gods, warriors, and daily life unfolding with careful attention. Each page was crafted with patience, every symbol deliberate, inviting the observer to slow down, absorb, and reflect. Codices were more than information. They were gentle guides, whispering the rhythms of Aztec thought and culture. Now let's move into Fact 22 and focus on Aztec poetry and song in daily life. Music and verse were never hurried. They were gentle expressions of emotion, devotion, and memory. Imagine a small gathering by the lakeshore, voices blending with the breeze, flutes and drums adding subtle rhythm, and the soft cadence of poetry flowing through the air. These performances were intimate and reflective, allowing participants to feel the connection between human experience, nature, and the divine. In this slow unfolding, art became a way to breathe, to contemplate, and to live with calm awareness. Now let's drift into Fact 23 and think about the sacred role of maize. Maize was central not only to diet, but also to ritual and identity. Imagine walking through fields where golden stalks sway gently in the breeze, the rustle of leaves like whispered guidance. Farmers tended each plant carefully, observing the sun, rain, and soil. Maize was more than nourishment. It was a symbol of life, growth, and sustenance. The relationship between people and maize was slow, deliberate, and harmonious, reminding us of the quiet patience required to cultivate both crops and life. Now let's move softly into Fact 24 and consider the practice of Aztec weaving. Artisans turned threads into intricate fabrics, often using symbolic patterns representing the cosmos, social status, or spiritual devotion. Imagine fingers moving rhythmically over a loom, selecting each thread with care, weaving slowly as the pattern grows, almost meditative in its repetition. Weaving was a dialogue between human skill and natural materials, a gentle, contemplative act that produced both practical and beautiful objects. In every stitch, there was calm attention and an acknowledgement of life's interconnectedness. Now let's drift into Fact 25 and reflect on Aztec stonework. Temples, altars, and sculptures were carved with precision and care. Imagine a sculptor standing on the warm stone, chiseling slowly, letting rhythm and repetition guide each movement. Even the smallest decorative detail required patient observation, attention to proportion, and respect for the material. These works were not rushed. They were meditative, expressing both devotion and an understanding of balance. The stones themselves seemed to hum with the quiet patience of their creators, grounding human presence in the enduring earth. Now let's move into Fact 26, where we consider Aztec star towers and observatories. Scholars used these spaces to watch the stars and planets, often spending nights in near silence as they charted celestial rhythms. Imagine standing in one of these towers under a dark sky, the stars unfolding slowly above you, and feeling time stretch, calm and unhurried. Every movement, every observation was deliberate. The rhythm of the heavens guided festivals, agriculture, and rituals, teaching the Aztecs to observe the flow of life with patience and awareness. Now let's drift into Fact 27 and think about the gentle precision of Aztec ritual dance. Dances were performed with slow, deliberate steps, each motion telling a story or honoring a god. Imagine dancers moving in unison, the sound of sandals brushing against stone and the soft rustle of feathers and fabric. The dances were measured, intentional, and almost meditative in their repetition. They connected the human body to divine patterns, to the rhythm of the day, the sun, and the stars, creating calm, reflective moments of beauty and presence. Now let's move softly into Fact 28 and focus on Aztec gardens beyond chinampas. Nobles maintained private gardens with flowers, herbs, and water features designed for reflection and relaxation. Imagine walking slowly through a garden filled with fragrant blooms and the gentle sound of trickling water, feeling the sun warm your skin. These spaces encouraged quiet observation, calm contemplation, and harmony with nature. They were refuges of gentle beauty where humans could pause, breathe, and witness the balance of life unfolding around them. Now let's drift into Fact 29 and consider the Aztec rituals for rain and water. Rain was vital for crops, and ceremonies were conducted to honor Tlaloc, the rain god. Imagine soft chants echoing across fields and lakes, the sound blending with the gentle rhythm of falling water, and offerings are placed carefully in the earth. These rituals were not hurried or chaotic. They were deliberate, performed with reverence and patience. Water itself was a teacher of calm persistence, nourishing both land and spirit in a slow, steady rhythm. Now let's ease into Fact 30 and reflect on the Aztec approach to storytelling. Stories were shared orally, with pauses and gentle repetition, allowing listeners to absorb lessons, reflect on morals, and imagine vivid worlds. Imagine sitting with a group beneath a tree or near a lakeshore, the storyteller's voice soft but rhythmic, carrying tales of gods, warriors, and everyday life. Each story unfolded slowly like a river, letting listeners drift along with the narrative, feeling both comfort and curiosity. Storytelling was a quiet practice of connection, reflection, and gentle education. Now let's drift softly into Fact 31 and think about the Aztec concept of time. The Aztecs had a sophisticated understanding of cycles, both in the heavens and in life itself. Imagine standing quietly on a plaza at sunrise, observing the shadows stretch along the stone, the light shifting slowly, marking the passage of hours. Their calendars measured sacred and solar time simultaneously, guiding planting, festivals, and rituals, teaching the Aztecs to observe the flow of life with patience and awareness. Now let's drift into Fact 32, where we reflect on Aztec tribute systems. Cities and villages contributed goods, labor, and resources to the empire, but the process was orderly and rhythmic rather than chaotic. Imagine quiet caravans moving along causeways, baskets balanced carefully on heads, carrying cacao, cotton, or feathers. Tribute was part of a social and spiritual network, a gentle flow of resources that maintained balance and cohesion within the empire. This system connected people across vast distances in a calm, interdependent rhythm, sustaining cities and individuals alike. Now let's move softly into Fact 33 and focus on the Aztec art of mosaic. Artisans used feathers, stones, and shells to create intricate, shimmering images, each piece placed slowly, deliberately, and with careful attention. Imagine watching a master select each feather, feeling the texture, matching color and form in quiet concentration. These mosaics adorned temples, altars, and personal objects, carrying beauty, symbolism, and calm reflection. The act of creation itself was meditative, a dialogue between the artist and the materials, the mind and the environment. Now let's drift into Fact 40 and consider the importance of obsidian. This volcanic glass was used for tools, knives, and ceremonial objects, prized for its sharpness and reflective surface. Imagine running your fingers gently along a finely polished blade, noting the subtle shine, feeling its smooth, cold surface. Obsidian shaped everyday life, from practical use to sacred rituals, teaching the value of precision, patience, and respect for natural materials. The Aztecs worked with obsidian slowly and deliberately, understanding its power and fragility. Now let's move into Fact 35, where we explore Aztec ball games. The Mesoamerican ball game was played in large courts, combining sport, ritual, and symbolism. Imagine the sound of a rubber ball bouncing softly against stone, players moving with focus, precision, and careful strategy. The game was competitive yet rhythmic, unfolding in a slow, thoughtful tempo that engaged both body and mind. It was a reflection of cosmic order, a meditative interaction with space, movement, and social rhythm. Now let's drift into Fact 36 and think about Aztec herbal medicine. Healers observed, tested, and applied herbs with calm precision. Imagine gently crushing leaves of copal, marigold, or cacao, inhaling the soft aroma, feeling the textures between your fingers. Remedies were administered carefully, often accompanied by prayers and songs. Healing was not rushed. It was a slow, attentive practice, blending body, mind, and spirit. Each herb was valued, each step measured, reflecting a patient, gentle approach to health. Now let's move softly into Fact 37 and consider the quiet majesty of Aztec aqueducts and water systems. Water was essential, and the engineering to bring it into cities was precise and deliberate. Imagine standing beside a canal, watching water flow smoothly along stone channels, reflecting sunlight as it nourishes fields and gardens. These systems were not hurried or chaotic. They were steady, harmonious, and deeply functional, embodying the calm balance of human design working in rhythm with nature. Now let's drift into Fact 38 and think about Aztec ceremonial masks. Masks were carved, painted, and decorated with feathers, stones, or gold. Imagine a craftsman shaping one carefully, smoothing edges, selecting colors and textures with slow attention. Masks were worn in rituals, embodying gods or spirits, transforming the wearer into a presence beyond themselves. Creating and using these masks was meditative, a gentle interplay between artistry, spirituality, and quiet performance. Now let's move into Fact 40, where we reflect on Aztec philosophy and understanding of life and death. The Aztecs saw life as a cycle, a slow, continuous rhythm of birth, growth, death, and renewal. Imagine walking through a quiet temple at dusk, feeling the soft weight of these ideas in the air, the shadows of candles and offerings flickering slowly on stone walls. Death was not feared as an abrupt ending. It was observed, honored, and integrated into the calm continuity of life. Now let's drift softly into Fact 41 and consider Aztec education of warriors. Young warriors were trained patiently, learning techniques, strategy, and discipline over years. Imagine a young boy practicing movements at sunrise, the soft warmth of sun on his back, the rhythmic repetition of steps and strikes. Training was deliberate, measured, and reflective, blending physical skill with moral and spiritual understanding. This long process shaped both strength and character, preparing them for life while maintaining patience, calm focus, and inner balance. Now let's move softly into Fact 41 and consider the quiet role of Aztec merchants or Pochteka. These travelers moved goods across vast distances, connecting cities and villages with patience and rhythm. Imagine a merchant walking along a winding causeway, balancing baskets of cacao, feathers, and cloth, each step measured and deliberate. They were more than traders, they were carriers of news, culture, and calm connection, moving through landscapes with awareness, observation, and a gentle, unhurried grace that kept the empire linked together. Now let's drift into Fact 42, where we reflect on Aztec astronomy in daily life. Observing the sun, moon, and stars was not only practical but meditative. Priests and scholars would spend hours in silence, charting celestial movements, marking solstices, and preparing for ceremonies. Imagine lying on a grassy hill under a starlit sky, feeling time expand and stretch with the slow drift of constellations. This practice connected humans to the cosmos, teaching patience, observation, and the calm flow of time. Now let's move softly into Fact 43 and consider the symbolism of Aztec jewelry. Gold, jade, turquoise, and shells were used to create intricate necklaces, earrings, and bracelets. Imagine a craftsman delicately carving jade, polishing gold until it gleams softly in sunlight. Each piece carried meaning, denoting status, devotion, or protection. Crafting jewelry was slow, deliberate, and meditative, a dialogue between the artisan's hands and the materials themselves, producing objects that radiated calm elegance and thoughtful beauty. Now let's drift into Fact 44 and focus on Aztec poetry and philosophical reflection. Poets explored the transient nature of life, the flow of time, and the presence of the divine in all things. Imagine hearing verses softly recited beneath a tree or along the lake shore, each line falling slowly like water over stones. Poetry invited contemplation, reflection, and a gentle awareness of life's cycles. It allowed both the speaker and the listener to slow down, breathing in ideas as naturally as one breathes in the wind. Now let's move into Fact 45, where we consider the Aztec approach to ritual offerings. Offerings were prepared with care. Flowers, food, incense, and symbolic objects arranged deliberately on altars. Imagine placing each item carefully, noticing the texture, color, and scent, feeling the rhythm of the practice as a form of quiet meditation. These acts were deliberate, unhurried, and reverent, blending human presence with spiritual awareness in a way that calmed both body and mind. Now let's drift into Fact 46 and reflect on Aztec weaving in ceremonial contexts. Cloth and garments were carefully woven for rituals, with patterns symbolizing gods, natural elements, and cosmic order. Imagine the soft hum of a loom, fingers moving with gentle precision, threads interlacing in deliberate patterns. The process itself was meditative, a harmony between creativity, attention, and devotion, producing garments that were both beautiful and meaningful, steeped in calm intention. Now let's move softly into Fact 47 and consider Aztec water symbolism. Lakes, rivers, and canals were not only practical, they held spiritual significance. Imagine the gentle ripple of water as it flows over stone or reed, reflecting sunlight and sky. Water was associated with life, fertility, and renewal, inspiring rituals and prayers that were quiet, reflective, and slow. Observing, honoring, and using water became an exercise in calm attention, connecting humans with the natural world in gentle rhythms. Now let's drift into Fact 48 and focus on Aztec sculpture and reliefs. Stone carvings depicted gods, animals, and myths with intricate detail. Imagine running your fingers lightly over a carved surface, tracing the lines of a serpent, a warrior, or the sun god. Each relief told a story, patiently revealing meaning as one observes. The art was enduring, meditative, and precise, inviting viewers to slow down and reflect on both history and philosophy. Now let's move softly into Fact 49, where we consider the patient practice of Aztec hunting. Hunters observed forests and lakes with calm attention, tracking animals with respect and care. Imagine walking slowly through dense undergrowth, listening to subtle sounds, noticing shifts in wind, light, and scent. Hunting was deliberate, quiet, and measured, aligning human activity with natural rhythms, teaching patience, observation, and restraint, qualities that extended to all aspects of Aztec life. Now let's drift into Fact 50, the final fact, and reflect on the enduring presence of the Aztecs. Despite centuries of change, echoes of their culture remain in language, art, and tradition. Imagine the gentle persistence of maize fields, marketplaces, rituals, and stories that have quietly survived time. The Aztecs' rhythms of life, patience, observation, and respect for nature endure as lessons in calm presence. Observing their legacy invites us to slow down, breathe deeply, and appreciate the quiet continuity of life across centuries. And now, as we let this journey come to a gentle close, imagine yourself sitting quietly beside a calm lake at dawn. the soft mist rising and drifting in the still air. You've wandered slowly through 50 immersive, sleepy facts, moving through temples, markets, gardens, and skies with the Aztecs as your guides. Their world teaches patience, harmony, and quiet reflection. Let your thoughts drift like reeds on water, your breath slow and gentle, and allow the calm wisdom of their lives to settle softly in your mind. Nothing needs to be hurried. Nothing needs to be solved. Simply rest, as the Aztecs rested in rhythm with their world, letting time flow gently, carrying you into peace and quiet calm.